All right, transfer confirmed. It's all yours.
We're assessing the lower chassis. The brake components are completely oxidized, and the axles appear frozen.
Hi, I'm at the site now. I need to schedule a heavy-duty recovery for an armored vehicle. It's roughly 15 tons and stuck in the mud.
The vehicle is now in the dry dock. Initial inspection confirms severe atmospheric corrosion across the armored plating and significant...
All right, the hood is open. As you can see, the engine bay is heavily oxidized. We've got significant rust on the block, and the wiring is completely shot. We're looking at the frame rails now. The corrosion here is severe, especially around these ballistic impact points. As you can see, the armor plating here shows significant environmental decay. These are the bullet impact scars we noted earlier, now heavily corroded. The wheel wells were completely packed with years of sediment. We're using high pressure here just to expose the chassis and the extent of the corrosion.
Audio features the loud, aggressive sound of a high-pressure water stream being sprayed, accompanied by the
The high-pressure rinse is revealing the true extent of the corrosion under the paint.
We're looking at the front driver's side hub. As you can see, the rotor is completely oxidized and the caliper is seized solid. The suspension mounts are heavily corroded. As you can see, the corrosion here is severe. We're applying maximum torque to break the seal on this main chassis bolt.
With the armor panel finally removed, we can assess the inner structure. The suspension mounts are heavily corroded and will require full replacement. The front chassis shows heavy environmental decay. We've got significant rust migration along the armored plating, especially where the water pooled near the suspension mounts.
We're using the heavy-duty pneumatic wrench to break the seal on the armored door hinges. They haven't moved in decades.
Scraping away the heavy rust here reveals the extent of the ballistic impact. The caliper reads almost 8 millimeters deep. All right, the left side panel is finally off. This has exposed the ballistic steel reinforcement and the main electrical conduit.
With the final bolts loosened by the impact wrench, we can now remove this heavy armored panel and place it on the storage rack.
The transcription details the sounds of an engine starting. Just applying steady pressure here. There we go. That pop means the main clips are free, revealing the retaining nut.
With the upper panel removed, we can see the extent of the water damage. These harnesses are completely shot, and the armored mounts show significant pitting and corrosion.
All right, with the lower panel off, we can finally get a look at this main harness. As you can see, the corrosion here is severe. Okay, that's the entire forward assembly disconnected. Years of corrosion really made this difficult to pull free. We're tracing the main harness route back here. The armored clips are secure, but we need to check for chafing and corrosion before we even think about applying power. Now we're clearing the remaining harnesses from the engine bay. These cables are severely corroded after years of exposure.
Step 1. Organize the wiring. We're using heavy-duty ties to keep the engine loom together.
This is the central nervous system of the vehicle. We'll keep it stored safely until the chassis is fully prepped.
We finally managed to separate the driver's side armored door using the overhead crane. It's heavily seized.
see how easily that comes off. This isn't surface rust, it's completely compromised the panel here.
As you can see, the rust is thick here. We need to meticulously scrape it all away before we can even think about priming.
The transcription is a single line reflecting the most salient spoken words occurring during the 8-second video.
As you can see, the roof frame here is heavily oxidized. We need to document the extent of this corrosion before we start the restoration. We use the angle grinder to smooth the patch weld until it's perfectly flush, then a quick brush to reveal the flawless metal underneath.
The key is to get this as smooth as possible on the first pass to minimize sanding later. We're just applying the first layer of filler here.
We carefully tighten the ratchet until it clicks, then gently rock the gauge to feel for any taper. After applying the honing oil, we use the tool to create the precise crosshatch finish on the cylinder walls. Apply a generous amount of lubricant to the crankshaft bearings. We use the hydraulic press to carefully insert the new bushing into the hot rod suspension component. Precision is key here to avoid damage.
We apply the specified torque until it breaks free, like that. Now we use the paint marker to apply a witness stripe across the bolt and the mount. We're installing the braided stainless steel brake line, ensuring it's properly torqued to spec. We're using a grease gun to apply fresh lubricant to the hot rod's ball joint. You want to keep pumping until you see the old grease start to seep out.
Using the hog ring pliers, secure the new strap firmly to the frame. A quick tug ensures the tension is set before moving to the next ring.
Using the industrial machine, we run a precise stitch line with thick white thread. Then, we use the seam roller to flatten the leather for a perfect finish.
The next step is applying the sound deadening material. We use a hand roller to press it firmly into place.
Once the bulb is seated, a gentle clockwise twist secures the connection, restoring the gauge illumination.
Heat the tubing until fully shrunk, then use the multimeter to verify continuity before moving on.
See how the pick gently scrapes away the built-up grime without scratching the paint. That's the key to a professional restoration. Be sure to apply plenty of this specialized grease to the regulator and all the main gears for smooth operation. Now for the critical moment, aligning the V8 with the mounts. We take our time, ensuring the chain hoist provides a
Would you look at that?
She's magnificent. Absolutely magnificent.
After all these years, we finally got her moving. This one is definitely worth the effort.
Bring it back nice and easy. Watch the alignment on the right. All right, hold it right there. We're clear.
Making sure this chock is tight. Got the safety block in place. All right, release the tension on the winch. Looks secure back here.
This is where the real work begins. We've got the schematics loaded up, so let's get this cab secured and start on the engine mounts.
All right, let's get these main cables disconnected.
You take the positive, I'll get the negative.
We got to make sure they're secured. Look at all this corrosion back here. Yeah, it's pretty rough. All right, this one's loose. Good, zip tie it and mark it as ignition.
Hit that with the impact wrench one more time. Keep it steady, bring it back toward the rack.
Looks clear on this side.
All right, lowering.
Set the stands now, make sure they're secure before we lift.
They're locked in, boss.
We're disconnecting the air lines first. Now for the impact wrench to loosen the main mounting hardware. Watch your hands on the hydraulics.
It's set on this side. Block is secure.
Okay, easy lift. Now that we have the bolts out, we can slowly lower the entire assembly using the transmission jack. All right, take the tension up slowly.
Clear on this side.
Looks good, send it up. Okay, take up the slack slowly.
Tension looks good on this side.
All right, easy now, clear the mounts. This right here is the problem. All this carbon buildup is restricting the movement. We need to clean every inch of this before we even think about reassembly.
The carbon buildup here is significant. You can see the wear marks clearly now that we've got the head off. This is going to take some serious cleaning. All right, checkpoint achieved. All the top end components are off and organized. Now we can really dig in and see the extent of the damage. It's looking salvageable. It's really stuck. Okay, easy now, easy. There we go. Got the first one out. Let's rack it up.
We're lowering the engine block into the chemical bath now. This process will remove all the rust and grime before we start the rebuild.
We're dropping the first piston into the chemical bath now. You can already see the carbon starting to lift off the surface. All right, putting the micrometer on the rod journal now. We're getting 2.997, which is just too much wear.
We apply the plasticage and torque the cap down. Then we check the spread against the gauge to confirm the oil clearance is within spec.
After measuring the shaft, it's clear this needs machining before reassembly. The specialist carefully applies the golden assembly lube before lowering the massive crankshaft into place.
All right, the engine and gearbox rebuild is complete. Everything is torqued and marked. She's ready for installation.
The art orchestrated audio captures the ambient sounds of a spacious auto repair shop. The prominent sound is the clap.
With the frame centered, we can finalize the height adjustment on the heavy-duty stands.
All right, easy now. Just a little bit to the left. Okay, hold it right there. Looks good.